Okay, we got Serge Berger on here, the steady trader. He's going to discuss his outlook for this week and also some new products. But Serge, Joe, I didn't know this, but Joe told me that you're in Switzerland.
I'm not always in Switzerland. I kind of spend my time between the U.S. and Switzerland. I have a lot of clients in Switzerland, so it's a little bit of a back and forth, you know.
Okay, so how do you work your day there if you're in Switzerland?
Well, it actually works out quite well, to be honest with you. Basically, I do all my research in the morning, and then once the U.S. market opens at 3:30, I pretty much just mostly focus on the morning session. The afternoon session for me is more just research based anyway, so it actually works out all right.
Okay. All right. So you got a new product coming out on Markify this week. You wanna talk about that at all?
Yeah, I mean, basically, what we're just gonna do is, as the world sort of evolves, most companies these days can to some extent be called technology companies, right? And a lot of these companies have over time actually become much more interesting from a technology point of view. So what we're gonna launch is a new product which will be a free daily watch list on the companies that you won't necessarily look at as tech companies, but really are very much technology companies in and of themselves. For example, Tesla, right? Is so we'll also focus on things like Facebook and things like that, but really, tech stocks that aren't your traditional stuff like Cisco and Juniper, really sort of the new breed of also some of the internet stocks. And so we're looking forward to it.
Okay, and it's just you're gonna do daily analysis of it, and as far as how to trade it, or is it just something that's shorter term or longer term for people?
Right. No, it's a good question. Basically, what we're going to do is focus on more sort of a swing trading type of setup. I will be doing two stocks a day, two charts a day with what I think is interesting, long, short levels, my analysis, and yeah, just kind of give people more of a swing trading type of feel. A couple days to a few weeks in terms of position. Nothing too hectic, nothing too boring, where people can really get a hold on how to trade some of these higher beta and very interesting type of new type of technology stocks.
Now, is it gonna be through the actual equity, or are you gonna try and utilize the options market?
I think we're going to do a little bit of both. I think that the basic underlying trade setup will always come from the equity, and if there's an interesting options trade to place around it, for sure, I will definitely mention that as well.
Okay, and I mean trend following is your bread and butter here. The trend. Are you looking for like longer term trends or 2 or 3 day trends? Really, what's your average time horizon on your trend trades? Or do you get into a trend and then if it's going your way, you just kind of like trill your stop and let the market take you out, or do you come in with specific stops and specific targets?
I always come in with a specific stop. It's just sort of a disaster insurance, right? Just so I know what my risk is, and I think that's really most important. People a lot of times try to focus a little bit too much on the upside, whereas really if you focus on the downside, a lot of this business, as you are obviously know, it really takes care of itself. So my stops are always hard. I will then certainly work with it with a soft target. So I'll usually have a first profit target around 5% on the equity, and then we'll trail it if it makes sense.
So you use a hard stop. You actually put the stop in the market. It's on the books then, right?
That's correct. I mean, that's a worst case stop. It doesn't mean I can't stop myself out before. In fact, I would say probably 70% of the time I will stop myself out before if it's not working.
Okay. All right. Well, we've had a good job number here. S&Ps are trading up here 875 here, 1887.50. I mean, it's hard to, hard to do the levels and it's hard to put projections on this here, but I mean, as far as, the trend, I mean, the trend is still up. Is there anything, that you're looking at today that our traders may be interested in?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Look, the trend is there, and it's look, the air's getting thinner on a daily basis. That doesn't mean we can't keep going doing this for another 3 to 6 months. And I mean, if you go back to the bull market, even just as recent as the internet bubble, I mean, people started crying wolf like 2 years before it ever got close to ending. So I think I'm not I don't want to compare that to that today to that time, but in terms of the bull market mentality, it's really the same kind of thing. I'm looking at a lot of the fertilizer stocks today. So Mosaic, which is MOS ticker symbol, and Potash POT,
Okay.
and even on Monsanto looks pretty good on the long side.
Okay. Now these fertilizer stocks and have. I mean, I always ask Brent for the person with the cartel here. Knocked it down. It's on 30. I believe that was back in July. Now it's had a nice
Mm-hmm.
breakout above the $34 level. Trade 30. Are you looking at this from fundamentals, or are you looking at this from technicals?
This is it's technical, but it's also like my technical analysis goes through the lens of psychology. In other words, I use a lot of candlesticks for my analysis, and candlesticks and some of the other very straightforward type of analysis really give us more than anything a good idea about investor psychology. And then we either go with it with that prevailing psychology, or we go completely against it. And I think at some point, like you said, in late July. Some of these stocks just got bombed out, and people were still very negative. But at the end of the day, if you look at potash, series of higher lows, very bullish reversal candles every time they got near the trend line. And basically, 2 days ago, we had a breakout past the 200-day moving average. Potash hasn't been above the 200 days since, geez,
Long
July,
time.
June, last June. So, I think it's a pretty good case, particularly because the entire industry actually looks good. So it's not just potash and mosaic. There's plenty of other that look fine as well.
Yeah, that $34 level was holding up for quite some time here, and then
Mm-hmm.
the highest of the moves was 34.10, and then yesterday you busted through there. So do you get into a trend, and will you add to your position then if it's going your way, or you just kind of put on your lot and then try and take it off in different tranches? Because I know when trading sometimes people are tempted to add to losers, but really you should add to winners. Do you like to add to your winning positions, or do you just kind of get into them and take your lots off?
Yeah, I mean, like you, I don't add to losers. I think that makes very little to absolutely no sense. It depends on the stock. If you have something that's trending, I'm more of someone who will go in fully, reduce a little bit. So after 5%, I'll take some off. If it then consolidates and wants to give it another push, I'll add again. That kind of thing. It's a little bit more, a little more defensive, a little more conservative in that sense. But it really is all about risk management.
Right. Okay. So you're following the technology stocks, and you're going to be doing that on your new product here. The Tesla, is it taking another breather here to move higher? It had a good run up after earnings. Kind of quiet here, holding the 250 level. Kind of looks like just a little consolidation you had around here around the $200 level.
Yeah, it does. It's the thing with Tesla. I like I said the other day, I gave a presentation for a bank last night on some of these stocks, and basically, I think Tesla basically right now is essentially what Apple was in the 2011, partially 2012 period. It's essentially the same thing. So it's hard to stop it. At some point, it will stop. I don't know. That can happen today or in 6 or 12 months, but it's a little bit stupid to fight it. I think.
Right, right. So you'd use a stop, on the downside, as opposed to trying to pick a top on the upside.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what you can do and what we have done is like sell way out of the money calls, or call
Okay.
spreads. That is an interesting idea. Of course, the stock can move 10, 20% on a given day, but you can sell like 40% out of the money with like 3 months in the future. That still is an attractive risk reward. So there's a lot of stuff you can actually do with the stocks without in the name without having used a stock or a combination thereof. It's interesting.
Are you finding some premiums out there? I mean, with we kind of had some of the lower volatility. I mean, are you going out
Yeah.
far enough and in enough time value to find some premiums to sell the options?
Yeah, I mean, particularly after earnings, I went out and actually sold. I sold calls in a couple tranches, like 40 and 50% out of the money, literally like, half an hour on the day. And, and those, some, I took like half the position off right away, which made good money because the IV collapsed at the end of the day and the stock moved down. And then, of course, the stock decided to pop because of the energy, the battery news. So, but you can massage those trades. That's why, one of the topics last night was it's hard to short a stock like this. In fact, it's probably, for lack of a better term, stupid. But if you use the option, you go like 3, 4 months out, you can sell call spreads that you can turn into all sorts of, iron condors, and you can massage the trade. You're not going to get lynched, in other words, if you use kind of that kind of strategy.
Okay, Facebook has had a nice run here. Didn't really participate in the rally yesterday. Participating a little bit today. Has made some tops up here at the $72 level, 71.89, 71.97. Once again, not trading up relative to the market. I think this thing has had a major run, over the last couple weeks here. Is this one
Hmm.
looking a little tired to you?
It's look to me, quite frankly, this has looked tired for a couple of weeks, but at the end of the day, it hasn't done that much in 2 weeks either. It's basically right now trying to break that, what was it, 71.40, 71.50, whatever level, or what is it exactly? I don't know.
Well,
You have
what it did have a high at 71.44, and it got through there in the last two trading sessions, but not by much. It got up to 71.89 and 71.97. I'm just wondering if perhaps someone's trying to sneak out at this $72 level and hitting every bit above 71.80.
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible. I think it's Facebook is it's quite similar to Tesla in that sense. It's you don't want to fight it, but I just find it a little bit difficult to really go after it too much, and especially if you have a time frame of more than a few days. I think you got to keep your options pretty tight here. You don't want to lean out a window. Maybe reduce your position size at this point. I mean, the highest probability trade came after earnings at the end of January because there it broke past lateral resistance and then was good for a runner. Now, the momentum's slowly kind of just slowing down. So
Okay, do you follow? I've seen in your profile you follow. Have traded the commodity markets. Do you follow and or trade the gold and crude market?
I trade gold a little bit, mostly through the miners. Just it's just a little bit less hassle because I manage quite a bit of money for clients, and so it's just from an admin point a little bit easier to go by the stocks as opposed to the commodities themselves. But yeah, no, I look at gold and the miners and things like that for sure.
Yeah, because there's been quite a divergence between, usually gold and the market go in opposite directions here. You've had
Mm.
the both rallying together. I know you've had some overseas unrest that's probably been contributed to it. But gold's running some major resistance here in the 1350 handle here. Coming back down, actually, we took hit the major resistance, and now we've come to major support as well. Last four lows right in this 1331 area. You think they're ready to, go separate directions here, or you just think that the fear trade is going to hold gold up here in the short term?
I think the dynamics in the tape have changed. I think if we're looking out 3 to 4 months, I do think this marginally decelerating rate of growth we're seeing in the U.S. economy is going to eventually catch up with the equity markets. Again, I don't know if that's 3 or 6 months down the road, but I do think that's part of the reason why you have gold increasing as inflation is also at the margin increasing. So it's sort of a combination of that. And quite frankly, that's a very non-consensus call. I think hardly anyone's talking about that. But if you look at the math close enough behind some of the economic indicators, that is essentially what's happening. So I don't think gold is going to fall apart here anytime soon. But I also certainly don't see it go back to 2011 highs. I think it's sort of a nice trade to the long side for me personally, better in the minors. But I wouldn't short it here either.
Okay. And then just going back to some of these new technology stocks or that you're going to be following, Twitter here has just been stuck in this range here. After the earnings, they took it down to $50, 49.99, and you got a nice pop of up at believe it's close to $59, and now it just market's been rallying here. The disappointing earnings report. Boy, how long can this consolidation last here in Twitter?
It's been frustrating for people I know, and I have there's a lot of guys that call me every single day. Hey, what's going on with Twitter? At the end of the day, I think you have to take a little bit of a step back and understand that it's a little bit, to me, it's a little bit like Facebook when it first came out. It's Twitter essentially still very much in the honeymoon phase, but that honeymoon phase essentially is slowly coming to an end here, and I think we're still trying to figure out what the model is, quite frankly. I think the model's there, but there's so much discussion about it. There's really no consensus. So the stock, quite frankly, at some point it's going to make up its mind. But unless it goes back and starts filling that gap above, say, $59 and alongside, or it starts cratering below 50, I don't think there's much you have to do here.
Right, and you're kind of just kind of, I don't know if you want to call it a wedge or whatever, but it's
Yeah.
really, well defined support as well as well defined resistance. So
Hmm.
we have a question here. How do you choose what new tech stocks to follow, and uh, does it have to do with positive potential price action or other criteria?
Mm. Well, it's a great question. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think if we're in the business of active investing, for the lack of a better term, trading, right? In my case, it's trading is time frames of 2 days, mostly to a multiple weeks. I do some intraday ticking around, but mostly it's confined more in the swing trading front. So to me, it's important that a stock actually moves, but it doesn't move too much. So I'm not very interested in like penny stocks or stocks trading less than 5 or even $10. I'm more interested in stocks that have some sort of an orderly pattern to them, right? So Facebook, Twitter, ish. Twitter is still trying to kind of prove itself. Groupon, Tesla, just almost any of the big names that they move well on a technical basis. iRobot, IRBT is the ticker symbol, Zynga, um, Salesforce.com, CRM, Yahoo, all those stocks, they act very well, but they have a technical rhythm to them. They're not choppy and crazy and nutty. But they're all in tech space. And then there's many, many more names. I'm gonna be focusing roughly, I think it's 70 to 100 names that I've
Wow.
got on that list that are of stocks that throw off unbelievably high probability trades all the time, and they're all essentially technology companies, even if they're not labeled as such, like iRobot, right? They can make the little robots for home, for the little
Yep.
vacuum cleaners. Tremendous stock, but it's not a tech stock. It's a consumer cyclical stock. I don't know how that's not a tech stock. you know?
Right, I have to agree with you. And just to close things out here, Berkshire Hathaway made a big move yesterday, and finally broke out. And Warren is, the value investor, and his top holdings. We rattled off Wells Fargo, Bank America, American Express here. Do you think that there might be a little bit of a shift, out of the hot rods here into the more value stocks?
Look, I mean, if you look at some of the things that they've been buying, and by the way, that's been a great call. Even if you hop on some of the stocks that some of the activist investors are behind it, with some screening, you would have done very well. Since Warren bought or disclosed a big position in ExxonMobil, it's been choppy,
Yeah.
but there were a good amount of trades. So I'm not sure if we're going so much into value. I think it's a little bit dependent on the sector, quite frankly.
Okay, and violin maker, just one last question here. This new service for the stocks, you'll provide with technical information, fundamental information, recommended trades. Is that
Mhm.
basically what you'll be providing?
Yeah, I will certainly look at the fundamentals to the extent that it makes sense. I've been a professional trader for 15 years, and I can tell you fundamentals matter when they matter, and they absolutely don't matter when they don't matter. You know what I mean? And I know you know what I'm talking about because I get calls from analysts from the sell side every single day, old friends and people I used to work with, and they have their opinions, but they're usually wrong for 40% in the wrong direction until they finally give up, and then the stock makes a move. So sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. I'll focus on technical, some fundamentals, news-based stuff, momentum, all those beautiful names that I think you find it good fun.
Okay, Serge. All right, the market's still holding up here, up 750. S&P's hit a high 1887.50. I mean, is it a day to perhaps try and take some profits into the sell, or you just any short-term indicators or tricks, the S&Ps, or any other things that give our traders something to follow here?
Yeah, I think you got to be a little bit technical at this point. I mean, we're going to be bumping into the 1900 area here at some point soon in the S&P. I mean, the futures are now still up 7 handles. It's I think it's time to get a little bit more technical. So if you look, so the past couple of days we had tremendous moves in the brokers. You know, Schwab, Goldman.
Hmm.
Personally, we took some profits in those. Even in Wells Fargo trimmed that position. Happy to entertain it again, but I tend not to be a big trader at all on Jobs Day. Actually, I think much better trades actually come up on Monday or Tuesday. So once the dust is settled, Friday afternoon, not a good time to trade. You have a lot of people basically filtering out. Europe's closed. There's nothing to look forward to the next day. I mean, not market wise at least, right?
Right.
So personally, I'd probably take it a little bit easier today. I'm like I said, I'm looking to actually. I have a position in potash. I'm looking to half that position to take some profits, and I'm going to add mosaic on alongside. So I have a bit of a more mixed position in the fertilizer stocks. But that's I think just about all I'm looking at today. Maybe first solar. The solar stocks are looking good again as well. Um, First solar on the long side
Yeah.
looking better than
How
yeah.
about that? They really hit that off the earnings, and it just bounced right
Mhm.
back. It took it down to the $50 level, coming up against resistance here. It's kind of been ignored at as opposed to the SC, the Solar City here. So you think it might be some
Yeah.
time for Solar to do some catching up?
I think so, and also another one on that popped in my radar the other day is TSL. It's Trina Solar,
Okay.
Theodore Samuel Ludwig. Just beautiful action
Dude,
right
what
there.
was that? Is Theodore? What was that again?
Yeah, I just made that up. I'm not a pilot.
Because Brent, you have to run that by Brent because he's the one with the Yankee Bravo, Indian. So you
He
can,
goes all official on you,
yeah, I
doesn't
think
he?
you just threw out some Swedish names or something there. You
I
can,
might as well. Yeah, whatever. It's
okay,
Friday.
yeah. Well, thanks, Serge. Thanks for coming on,
Hey, thanks, guys. Good
talking
stuff.
about your new product here and your trades. I like the way that you mix the fundamentals and also how you emphasize the risk reward ratios and stuff. So thanks for adjusting to the American time here, and we'd certainly like to have you on again.